Hello everyone, this is actually gonna be Nasu for Nasu Reviews. I mean, it's the same person, but Nasu Reviews sounds more catchy and flows better than Steel Phoenix Reviews, because it ends with the ooh sound. Either way, as promised, totally wasn't me procrastinating or anything. I'm finally going to be talking about How to Survive 2. How to Survive 2 is you can probably guess from the name, a sequel to How to Survive 1. And that's about where the similarities end, aside from being an isometric shooter combat zombie survival game. How to Survive 1, for a little bit of background, is a story-driven game where you hop between islands, level up, get more health, get more abilities to create things, and basically makeshift a bunch of weapons to survive the zombie hordes until the end for the final holdout before you leave. How to Survive 2, on the other hand, is a grind fest, an absolute mess, and doesn't fix any of the problems from the original. So I suppose we should start with the problems that never got fixed. The problems that never got fixed mostly being with the combat system. In fact, one of them was made worse because you can no longer aim and choose direction for your melee swings. So you don't have the option to choose which direction you're swinging until you've already started. And with a lot of the weapons being heavy hammers, you wind up swinging for 15 minutes in one direction rather than swinging at the actual zombie that you were attempting to kill. One improvement they did make with the melee, however, is that you can now do finishers. So those are kind of neat. You'll never be using melee due to a factor we will be getting into in the more meat of the review, but we'll get there when we get there. As for the ranged combat, the bow is pretty good. You can now throw melee weapons, a select few of them. The only one I ever found that I could throw was the pitchfork, though there's probably knives later in the tree. I saw mention of them, but I never actually found any. So why they removed the ability to aim your melee in exchange for being able to throw 3 weapons in the entirety of the game, I have no idea. In fact, it makes even less sense when you take into account that for the ranged weapons you can punch, so it's effectively them just converting the system for the ranged weapons over to that single melee weapon without putting the aim sight on it. It's a mess. But as I said, ranged weapons. The only one that matters is a sniper rifle. You don't get ammo enough, and you will, unless you grind for 7 years on the same 2 missions that actually give you gunpowder and lead, you will not be able to keep up with ammo demand for the assault rifles. You can get 50 pistol bullets every time that you return back to the hub. It is a kind of a way to farm, but the pistol does not do enough damage to be able to take on the mindless swords. The only reason that the rifle is anything that you can use reliably is because it has penetration. So you can stun multiple enemies, or if you get a crit on multiple enemies and you haven't leveled yourself up to the point where they no longer get one shot, we'll get into that later, you can multi-kill in a single hit. Kind of neat, though headshots are restricted only to if you spend 5 minutes critting. There is no real skills to improve critting. You can put attachments on it to shorten the time for the reticle to shrink down by 0.5 seconds was the better of the 2 sniper scopes. It takes approximately 5 seconds to actually get into a crit, which is not great when you've got runners. after so many levels, actually after like the first 5 levels, you wind up getting runners, which they aren't any joke about running. If you're not sprinting away, they will catch up to you and they will stun lock you. But I guess that there's no avoiding it. I guess we're moving on to the actual hordes portion, the enemies. You got your standard zombies, which come in 3 variants. They come in walkers, which are basically cannon fodder. The only way that you're going to get hit by them is while you're running away from something else, or when they go into an animation, because all zombies share the same animations. If they go into an attack animation, you cannot avoid that. They have immense tracking, and they lunge. Up to 10 feet, I think, was the longest one I saw one. Relatively speaking, isometric's kind of hard to guess for that. But the other speed are runners, which are not the worst. You can, if you keep moving, you can kind of outpace them. Just don't make any turns that go in their direction, because they are smart. They will cut you off. I guess that's one of the few things that I can say good about this game. And then the sprinters, the absolute garbage cheat enemies of the game. You have limited sprint. They do not. You have only a few seconds of sprint. Your sprint ties into several other things as far as your combat goes, namely melee, and you can't really get it to regenerate all that quickly. It takes approximately 2 seconds for it to start regenerating. So unless you find a lull or something, you are not going to be able to actually regenerate it. And you are boned when they catch up to you, because there is a chance that they will just outright stun lock you, because there are not just singles, there are multiples. Up to half of each horde can be sprinters, which is not fun in the cramped maps of the game. Other zombies are the fat boys. I have no idea what the actual name is for them. They explode. They're never really mentioned what they're called. I just refer to them as the fat boys, because they're fat. They scream and explode, except for when you actually need them to. They're pretty easy to deal with. 2 shots from the sniper rifle, even when you're just before a conversion. And you can just run up to them, and if you're lucky, they'll eventually learn that you're trying to just jig them out, because apparently they put time into that, but not into any other system in their game. But they will scream, and they will explode, and it'll do damage to other zombies around them. Not much else to talk about them. Another returning enemy is I'm gonna call them crawlers. They're mutated zombies that crawl around and scream at you. They're not fun. In the other one, you were specifically told to keep your flashlight on at night, and your flashlight was a resource you needed to manage, because they would scream and run away from the flashlight. There were clusters of approximately 3 of them each time that they would come around, and they were rather manageable. They still went down in a couple hits, but if you lost the ammo, because you could retrieve even your bullets, quote-unquote, in the other one, if they ran away, that was it. When morning hit, they were. So you had to also think about how close is it to morning before I start attacking these guys. The ones in How to Survive 2, however, scream and act like they're going to run away, but then they bum rush you and knock you to the ground before attacking. If you don't shine the light on them, they will constantly pursue you. They will chase you across the map. And there is no leaving an area if you're being chased. So night missions are really, really bad because you have them chasing after you, and they constantly pursue. And the moment that you kill one, another one will spawn. Will it spawn on the other side of the map? Will it spawn 10 feet away from you? That's up to the game. There's no guessing which. Most likely, whichever one is going to be more inconvenient for you. Do you need to go to the other side of the map? That's where it's going to spawn. Do you need to leave now? It's going to spawn 10 feet away from you and immediately cancel out your ability to leave the mission. It's not great. I suppose that it's a good segue into the animals, though, considering the stag is one that was in How to Survive 1. The stag's actually improved. It doesn't stun lock you and take out half your health in a single run. They're still terrifying. They'll still absolutely demolish your health if they get a hold of you, but they have a bit of a wind-up for their actual attack. It's not just a bum rush into a knockdown. They're the only ones that give you that kind of grace, though. The turtles vomit at you. They vomit mud, which will slow you to an actual walk. There is nothing else in the game that slows you to a walk. It's actually slower than a walk because you're trekking through sticky mud, and then they will rush you and demolish you, or let other zombies rush you and demolish you. And if you knock their shell off, their shell is apparently the only thing keeping them slow. They will rush you and will not stop until they go into an attack animation, which again has Dark Souls 2 level of tracking, where unless you are in a full sprint when it happens, you're not doing it. They can also charge up an attack where they rush you and knock you to the ground. All animals except the pelican can do this. It's not fun, and there's no indication that they can do this until you experience it for the first time. Topically, we're moving on to the pelicans. The pelicans are pretty easy. They meander around relatively slowly and vomit noxious acid at you. The noxious acid can be a bit annoying because it can travel through surfaces, it can cling to surfaces and attack you from the sides, and it can be used multiple times before it runs out, so you might have to, in a more rushed situation, go through it. I don't feel they're unfair enemies. They are different. The elephant in the room, though, is probably the bears or the rabbits. The rabbits are terrifying the first time you meet them, so I guess I'll do the rabbits first. They, despite being tiny little rabbits, can take multiple gunshots, especially when you first meet them. They can take you down in approximately 3 hits the first time that you meet them. As far as any other time, that ties into the leveling system, which we'll get into later. That's the most painful part of the game. And they're fast. I don't know why they decided that tanky fast enemies was the way to go with all the animals. But it was. Speaking of tanky and fast, that makes sense. Bears. Zombie bears. They soak up a lot of ammo. They hit like a truck. And they are extremely fast. They also have the charge up rush attack. It's easier to avoid because they don't turn very easily. They're probably one of the few animals that, supposing you can find a spot to not get one-shot by their claws, are kind of fair. They're kind of dumb, like all the others, but they will eventually climb stuff if you find stuff to climb. And then there's the crocodiles. Oh, the crocodiles. The crocodiles are enemies that are about as tanky as a bear, and are invincible 90% of the time you're dealing with them. They burrow into the water, the mud, and are invincible, and you have to bait out their attacks in order to kill them. Mind you, their attacks will always be a one-shot. So they have an attack that's a one-shot, they're invincible 90% of the time, and the only time to make them not invincible is to bait out their attack, which is a matter of did your animation start before theirs? If you're able to find a spot you can climb up onto. It's not fun. Made even worse by the fact that there is an elite mission made for it. Which I guess is the best segue I can get into the missions, starting with the elite missions. The elite missions are, a mission where if you die once, or get downed once, or your target dies once, you have to start all the way over. There is no XP penalty. There is no try again. You lose. One of them is to kill 6 crocodiles without dying, when the only way to get them is to either have a weapon powerful enough to insta-kill them before they burrow, or to bait out their attacks and hope that you don't die, or stock up on multiple resurrection potions. Some of them are timed, so it makes sense. You don't exactly get to retry if you fail a timer. And some of them are escort missions. You know, everyone's favorite. But where most games are smart and go, alright, here's your escort mission. Make sure he doesn't die. They have the self-preservation skills of a cantaloupe, but you've got an arsenal. You remember how I said that the sniper rifle can collateral? Your escort missions can take damage from you. If you're swinging your hammer, and they're too close, they can get hit by it. If you're using the sniper rifle and they decide that inside a horde of enemies is the best place to nest themselves for protection, and you shoot an enemy that is within the same postal code as them and it penetrates, it's going to hit them and knock out 90% of their health, because they don't increase health based off of what difficulty the mission is. So if you're playing the mission at level 30 and the mission is set for level 10, they don't have the extra health to tank one of your hits that accidentally strays off into them. It's a mess. Most of the missions, though, will be collection missions or killing missions. The killing missions are normally either clear out so many of a certain type of enemy or clear out so many enemies in general. They're pretty straightforward, though time-consuming, because they only give like 5 extra enemies on the map aside from the amount that you need to kill. Either that, or they will toss absolute hordes in a small area, like a certain elite mission for the end of one person's quest. The collection missions are basically all except for one of your items are in the first area that you'll explore, and the final bit of it is all the way at the end of the map, and this is a map that you can only go one direction. It is padding, and it's awful. There's an exclusive mission type to the two brothers, where you go and you talk to someone and then leave. You do this twice, and it's probably the best mission for the farming, which there is a lot of as far as XP goes. It's what I did a lot of, because it was the fastest thing. I sprint to one of the 2 spots that he spawns, and I complete the mission. Or I die and I complete the mission, because I don't get reduced rewards for materials. And as we get into later, the XP isn't exactly fantastic. The other type of mission is a timed mission, the one that I mentioned earlier, where you have to bring a dumpster, all the way around the map to a location for one of the brothers. The mechanics for adjusting things that you're pushing are awful. You have to get this thing long ways twice during the mission in order to slide it through a gap just barely wide enough for it. It's not great. I guess there's no avoiding the XP and horde now. XP is given to you for doing quests, getting kills, not for crafting. You know, that thing that you'll be doing a lot of. It's not for that, and it's not for collecting items. Also, which you will be doing a lot of, and it will weigh you down, because when everything you gotta do is crafting, why should you ever do anything other than give me a weight limit for how much stuff I can carry? That's not fun. But, you get XP for missions, which you'll be grinding, because there are only a select few missions, and the gap between level 20 and level 30 gives you one new mission at level 21. It is not a fast mission. It does not give a lot of XP. It is nothing new. All the maps are the same. You're either in the swamp or you're in the city. Or in the farm if you're playing one person's quest line. But for the quests, you have to do a mission and you get XP. The XP has to be split between your camp, your self, and your perks. Doing the fastest mission, which none of these missions have a difference in XP amount that they give you. Doing the fastest mission gives you enough XP for 1 bar out of 4 on your base XP. Your XP, not your base. Your XP. You have to do that 4 times, which that 4 times you have to do 5 times in order to get the next holdout mission. You can only mess with perks every 5 to 10 levels, depending on what the perk is. I'm not going to bother much with the camp. It's not great. You can upgrade it and then spend copious amounts of resources to upgrade once to move to the next level in the thing, which for the most part is going to be food if you hunt occasionally, and sniper rifles. Ammo is not reliable enough to get the resources for it to be something that you concern yourself with very often, and none of the ammo types outside of the first ammo do a whole lot, There's no variance in them. But the XP grind is immense, the material grind is immense, and the holdouts are absolutely awful. The holdouts you get after the first 10 levels and after the second 10 levels. After that, they switch to 5-level intervals, where you have to guard every camp that you ever created from hordes and the pylon. My advice is find a spot to put your pylon, put massive walls around it. I don't advise playing this game in general, but if you do, put massive walls around it and surround it with spinning traps. That's your only way that you're going to be able to protect the pylon and all of your bases. Spinning traps everywhere. Spinning traps don't take care of anything lower than a standard standing zombie. Meaning that if you do a holdout at night and you get crawlers, you're going to have to deal with that yourself. And hope that they're not close enough to one of the exit holes that you get hit by your own trap, because you get hit by your own traps. If a rabbit runs through a bunch of your spinning traps while you're setting them down, it's going to set them off. It won't get hit by a single one, but you're going to be stun locked for the next couple minutes. Or until you die. I guess I do have to talk about the bases, as much as I hate talking about the bases. So for the bases, you have a small amount of area that you can fill in. You have to, by the end of this, because quests require certain items that can only be made in others. Those resurrection potions, you're going to need an alchemy bench. That, you're forced to make a storage chest at the beginning, which obviously you're going to need a storage chest. You need better armor? Well, I guess you're going to have to make yourself an armorer's bench. Oh, what's that? You want to make metals so that you can actually make stuff without grinding for 20 minutes? Well, better make a forge. You're going to have to make yourself, some food eventually. Unless you feel like eating candy bars and then drinking stagnant water forever, which give you no bonuses and will just lead to you dying faster. Hope that you built yourself a kitchen. Oh, you wanted to build weapons? You know, the thing that you absolutely have to do in order to progress, because there are no weapon drops in the game. Guess you're gonna be making yourself one of them neato weapons benches. You don't have enough space for all of this in a single camp. So your camps are going to be spread out. Very spread out. And you have to protect every camp that you make during the holdout missions. If the bar for your camp, which the bar only covers about a single building's worth, the bar comes all the way down, you have failed. The pylon gets destroyed, you have failed. And the walls that are around the pylon will cover over the area of the pylon. You can start the pylon missions even if the pylon's destroyed. It won't tell you if the pylon has been destroyed or if it's near destroyed. But you can insta-fail the thing and not know about it, because your walls have to be so close to it in order to be able to put spinning traps around it that you'll be only looking at your walls instead of the pylon itself. It's such a terribly, terribly designed system. Level 51 is how high you have to get for the final mission. I stopped playing this game at level 25 when I realized that every 5 levels I would have to do a holdout. That is 6 more holdouts to get to level 51 for the final mission. That is if I ignore all of my perks, if I only put points into myself, which is not viable, because zombies will get stronger as you level up, and you have to put points into your base in order to get to the pylon. Would require me to do the mission that the quickest mission, which is still 5 to 10 minutes long depending on RNG. That's 6 holdouts. Each holdout is 5 levels, so that's 30 times 4 for the bar. The bars inside each level I get. That's 120 times. You have to grind a mission 120 times to get enough XP to get to the final mission. There is no story to this. It's you get an explanation for why you're supposed to do things, and go. The only indication that this is related to the first game is some of the survivors from the first game make a cameo. One of the survivors shows up. One of them is named, and as far as I freaking got, and as far as I can tell, you never actually meet. Which I can understand based off of if they had to deal with the amount of enemies that you actually have to deal with in this game versus what the first game had. First game had small amounts of enemies. Some of them had different abilities than others. It's a decent system. This game has hordes of enemies, like 20 to 30 enemies per group. You have the options of collaterals, weapons that don't collateral and take 3 to 4 hits, and wasting copious amounts of ammo because you can't get a crit at all anyway. And even the smallest, tiniest, most cannon fodder zombie can take up to 3 hits at the end of a level progression, because you get the sniper rifles approximately every 14 levels. And at the end of those 14 levels, it takes 3 hits with your old sniper rifle to do this. That's after going through 3 holdouts, approximately, with that same sniper rifle, depending on what level you got that sniper. This game does have co-op. No one plays it. And according to Steam, those that did play it mostly just wanted to steal stuff from other people because by default, other people have permissions to do everything to your base. And you have to manually select the person. You can't set this in your settings beforehand. You have to manually, with that person there, find out beforehand, or find out the hard way, that they take all your stuff. And then give them no permissions to make stuff or anything. And even then, they still have permissions to build and whatnot, certain things. So they can just use your resources up a completely more annoying way. It's a great game. It's not. It's awful. and I've put more time into this video than they probably did in actually making the game. And this is only at like the 30-minute mark. So, as a quick recap, the good, it's not much. Actually, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that is good. Some of the enemies got nerfed, but others got buffed in a more annoying way. Variety's down because there's several humanoid zombies that I have not seen hide nor hair of in the entirety of the game. They've increased the variety of animals, I guess. Zombie animals. Melee's worse. Zombie hordes are worse. The grind is far worse. This game is a game that is designed for multiplayer. All the decisions were made with multiplayer taken into consideration, most of which seems to be them attempting to make some sort of MMO that is based off of a single player's thing. The netcode is awful. The game lags frame rate drops randomly, even in single player. The game is an Xbox Live arcade game that was direct ported to PC and given somewhat controls similar to it. And it shows. For my actual review score at the end, I guess that if you have friends that you could roll around a dog turd and have fun with it, roll around the dog turd and have fun with that instead. Play something that is dumb fun, like Dead Island, if you want a zombie game to play together. If you want a zombie game to play together, like, you've got so many. You got Left 4 Dead, you've got Dead Island, Dying Light. All of these are also Dead Island, as, like, none of these have any less story than How to Survive 2 does. Play one of those. If you absolutely must get it, only play with a friend. Don't get this if you want to play solo. It's so freaking bad. It is such a grind. And it's just a tedious game, and games should not feel like doing office work just to do it. Unless you're into that, but, like, this is tedious. It's not fun. It's one of the few games I have reviewed. It's a negative review, obviously. I will see about leaving a link to that review on Steam in the description, but I've put more time into this video than they have in the entirety of that game, I'm pretty sure. It's a black stain on 505 Games' record. I'm not even entirely sure what all 505 has under their belt, but I've played better games by them, or, well, with them involved, and it's just bad. So, my final review, I don't know, like a 3 out of 10 or something like that. It's so bad. If you want to play something with MMO grind like that, play an actual MMO or something. RuneScape's free, mostly. Destiny's free if you want a gun-based one. It's bad. That's all I've got for this one. Sorry this one took far longer than it did. I just really didn't want to put more time into the game and remember the game. But I did promise this, and I really needed to vent about this game. It was a chore to get through, even as far as I did. And I played the game on my Twitch channel, which I will be reviewing further games in the completion project for. It's twitch.tv/Nasu. It'll be in the end card thing here in a couple seconds. And I will see you in the next one, whatever that may be, because I don't have anything lined up exactly, unless you decide to pop into the Twitch. Doom 64 is the next thing I'll be doing on that. And Yakuza sometime by the end of the month, if all goes to plan. So, that's all for me now. Thank you all so much for watching. Like if you liked, dislike if you disliked. Leave a comment to tell me what you think, just things that I could improve, because this is the first time I've done a review in ages that wasn't just me complaining about a game not working. That would be Wooden House. It literally didn't even start. And subscribe if you haven't already. It's free, and it will inform you when I do stuff, because Christ knows that YouTube won't unless you tell them to. So, that's it. This is Steel Phoenix, also known as Nasu Amaya. This has been a Nasu review. Haha. And I'll see you later. Bye.